Hello folks, Phil Gallagher of ThrabenU here for another Legacy video, or maybe the first of 3 Legacy videos, depending on how it goes. Garrett Y has essentially thrown down the gauntlet and offered me a challenge. 5-0 with death and taxes for $300. So, obviously, I'm going to throw down. I haven't been in competitive try-hard death and taxes mode for a while, so this is going to be fun. For those of you who don't know my original background, I started out as specifically a death and taxes content creator, but I've hardly touched the deck in the last year and a half. I've maybe played like 3 or 4 leagues total. So it's going to be good to kind of like play competitively for a little while. My content has just kind of drifted away from that for a number of reasons. So for this first attempt, I am just going to grab a deck list of one of the D&T grinders and play it and kind of go from there. And I have a couple of deck lists pulled aside. So today I'm going to be trying out Luanil's build of Death and Taxes. I don't know how to say this, but when I look at this deck list, this doesn't look like a good deck list to me. And I don't mean this as a slight. So like, let me explain. When I look at this deck list and I see 12 colorless lands, like that makes me super nervous. One of the things I'm most known about, like, and most adamant about as a D&T player is just like having a rock solid mana base. And having like 12 colorless lands just makes me super nervous. This is also a deck that is playing 34 lands, which feels really heavy to me. Urza's Saga, though, is unmistakably a powerful card, and if you've been watching any of my videos recently, like, hands of, like, Urza Saga and Ancient Tomb can absolutely win games under some circumstances, so I really understand wanting to have these in here. I don't know if this build is going to be for me, but, like, Luanil has a really good reputation with the deck and great results, so I wanted to kind of start with their starting point, see what I'm right about with my gut feelings, see what I'm wrong about with my gut feelings. The Urza Saga package is basically non-existent. It's basically 4 Urza Sagas and a Shadow Spears, so there's nothing cute here like spell bombs or anything like that. It's a Shadow Spear as an additional piece of equipment, which is also tutorable with Stoneforge Mystic should you find yourself in a weird spot where you need to do this. Most of the things that are here are stock. I do want to say I'm really skeptical about Timeless Dragon. This is something that I've seen quite a bit in the Orion Death and Taxes builds. You essentially just plane cycle it early to make your land drop, and in the late game, it's a 4-mana 4/4. Like that's fine. I'm not like super impressed by it. But I don't know enough about how like the mana is going to work out with these decks and like the amount of mana that I'm going to need. Like being able to count this as a half land might be really important. I'm skeptical that that card's good, but like I am very much of the philosophy like I want to test something out and learn myself if it's good. And like that's why I'm trying this build with some things that I'm really on the fence about. I'm not sure about Urza Saga. I'm not sure about Timeless Dragon. So like I'm going to test them. I'm going to find out for myself. I think Lion Sash is like a little weak if you have this many colorless producing lands. But I've been pretty impressed with Lion Sash when I've seen it in play. So I'm going to kind of assume that the mana will work itself out more or less. I'm also unsure if this card is super necessary and like if this is just better or worse than a basic Plains, because like there's a real amount of Blood Moon running around the format right now. It doesn't feel to me like Legacy Death and Taxes needs more removal, because like you've got Apparitions, you've got Source of Plowshares, you've got Solitudes, you have the ability to blink these things, you've got Council Judgment out of the sideboard. But some people feel like this is free. I don't know. I don't like getting wastelanded in Death and Taxes because I feel like most of the time if I just have solid mana, I'll win games via my play skill. I also don't really like Leyline of the Void in the sideboard. Like I could probably talk about that for 10 minutes, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to try out the things that I think are questionable and kind of get a feel for them today. We do have some additional Urza Saga targets in the sideboard of Grafdigger's Cage and Pithing Needle, so like that makes the Urza Saga a little bit more robust. I do really like Serenity as just an absolute haymaker for the matchups that have cards like Kappa Cannoneer. I can't imagine Death and Taxes particularly likes facing down a Kappa Cannoneer. That thing is thing is a hell of a clock, and it's pretty hard to remove. All right, so we're going to attempt a 5-0 today, and if it doesn't work today, we got 2 more days to try it to collect on the money for grabbing that trophy. Buckle up, consider subscribing if you want to kind of be along for the saga, the Urza saga. Okay, I'm done. So this is going to be me kind of in try-hard mode. I haven't played like a super competitive like deck list that I specialized in a while. Let's see how it goes. I used to be one of the like most knowledgeable, most up-to-date Death and Taxes pilots. Let's see if I can shake off the old rust. All right, round 1 opening hand. I'm on the play. Hand looks really mediocre. Like, am I supposed to just keep a hand that lets me cycle a Timeless Dragon and, like, do Urza Saga stuff? I don't have heuristics with the current version of this deck list to know for sure. I like, technically have a 2-drop play. I shouldn't try to mulligan to 1-drop plays, because I don't actually have that many of them. So I have 14, more realistically 13 2-drops to hit. Plus another 12 decent early plays. I'm light on things for if I draw Solitude. I feel like I can do better than this being on the play. But I don't know. Yeah, like, I can play Urza Saga turn 2, cycle Timeless Dragon, make Construct, have an Aether Vial, start working that up towards Flicker Wisp. I guess I'll keep this to see how this plays out. Like, League 1 of this challenge is probably me gathering information more so than anything else. But I'm not impressed by this hand. But I have a feeling that the mana-heavy hands are better than I think they are, because, like, I also just have this chilling out in exile. Alright. This is not the sort of hand that I want versus Burn. In good news, I found a land. In bad news, cycling Timeless Dragon now feels pretty mediocre. A Solitude. Which of these cards is better, like Timeless Dragon or Flicker Wisp? Cycling Timeless Dragon means that I can bring it back on 4 mana. Or likely a little bit later than that. I guess I'll probably end up pitching the Flicker Wisp. Probably. Alright. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 total cards. Fine. Playing an Urza Saga means, like, I technically expose myself to a Price of Progress for a little while, but that's kind of whatever. Sure. Swift Spear is fine. Let the Goblin Guide attack, and then I'll kind of make my decision here about which one of these I actually want to remove. A Recruiter on top. That's not bad. I want to keep it. I could pitch Timeless Dragon and keep that, and then try to Flicker Wisp it. No. I think I'm still going to cycle the Timeless Dragon, because it just represents a 4/4 body that can wear a Shadow Spear, which is, like, how I think I'm going to win this matchup. And I'm going to go ahead and junk Monastery Swift Spear. Similar in power level to Goblin Guide, but has a higher ceiling, and I think I care about this ceiling right now. Alright, I'm at 16. I assume I'll be at 13 here. Not immediately. It's a Suspended Rift Bolt. Go ahead and cycle away that card. Grab a land. Want to continue to play basics here. And I'll just pass the turn. I'll make a 1/1. I'll turn into a 2/2 by activating Urza Saga, which will become a 3/3 when I fetch out Shadow Spear, which once that gets equipped, it will be good news for me. The question is, like, will I die before that? Medium chance. Alright. I'm at 10, which really means I'm at 8. Presence of Fire Blast is kind of a big one here. Alright, more land. In determining whether or not I'm going to just, like, die in the next turn cycle. At 8. So let's make my construct. Mom's okay. Mom means my equip next turn will be pretty safe. Right, there's a Shadow Spear. There's a Plains. Do I want to attack for 3? Probably fine. It's an argument to not. But I don't exactly want to give my opponent time, because giving them time can represent a sulfuric vortex, which shuts off the life gain from this. All right, chain lightning, target me. I may just die directly to fire blast here. Yep. Am I dead? I am dead to fire blast. Okay. Uh, I was one turn away there, so I was just a little too slow. I imagine that in most matchups, unfortunately, I'm going to get to sideboard 0 cards. The Yorion deck list is designed to kind of beat the fair stuff and then sideboard for combo in game 2. And if you get paired against something that you're not ready for, like you just don't really get to sideboard, and like there's no life gain cards in the sideboard. No, should there probably be for a regular event. I think D&T is a much better deck for challenges and such than it is for leagues. In leagues where you just kind of run into the random stuff more frequently, like you often aren't playing against the things that you're geared to beat. Um, Needle can matter against a Grim Lavamancer. That's not in all of the lists these days. Peacekeeper isn't really for these sorts of matchups. About the only thing I can be thinking about is Council's Judgment, for if there's something that is just like particularly heinous. But Council's Judgment is very slow removal versus creatures. I don't have a Cathar Commando in this 75, which is something that I might like. I think since I don't have access to a Cathar Commando, Council's Judgment becomes a little better. One of my issues here is a lot of my stuff is just slow. Like, Recruiter for Prelate is cool. Recruiter for Stoneforge is cool. But I can just, like, die a lot of times before those things happen. I'm going to go down a Recruiter and maybe go down, like, a Lion's Sash. This doesn't gain life like Scavenging Ooze does. I don't think I'm super in the market for this. Like, I'd rather just play out a Spirit of the Labyrinth that can trade with an early creature. Hands Medium. Doesn't have anything that's particularly potent versus burn in particular. But I can trade with an early creature. I can make a large threat. I have some interaction. I'll keep it. I don't think I get to mulligan very aggressively with the Yorion deck. Like, if this was a 60-card Death and Taxes deck, I would just be, like, mulliganing more aggressively towards something like a Stoneforge Mystic. But I don't think you get to just do that with this version of the deck. Also, I apologize if you all can hear this, like, horrible screeching sound that is going on outside right now. I hope you can't. If you can, my bad. There's nothing I can do about it right now. Alright, so I get to put in Mother of Runes. The question is, like, do I want to try to restrict my opponent's mana, or do I just want to try to trade a Spirit of the Labyrinth for this thing? It's so bad if I try to port this and my opponent just, like, fires off a Lightning Bolt in response. Similarly, it's bad if I just eat a Searing Blaze here that I don't have to eat. I think I'm going to chill and port down this mountain. Okay, I successfully got that mana, which I'm very happy about. Okay, another Swift Spear. I will go ahead and take 2 damage here, dropping to 17, and now I successfully get my Mother of Runes to play safely. Let's tick this up. I don't mind a Skyclave. Just go ahead and immediately flop that into play, take out a Swift Spear, and I've got a Spirit of the Labyrinth as well that I can kind of use as backup. That's a lot of Swift Spear. This is what Death and Taxes wants to see from Burn. Like, well, frequently, is the creature-heavy draws that don't just send everything to the face in a way that you can't interact with. Alright, so those are coming in. I'm going to go ahead and vial in a Spirit. I go ahead and take a block on one of these and give pro red. So I take 2 and demolish 1 Swift Spear. Pick this up. Double port, huh? Double port's pretty sick. I think this shifts me into the beatdown for this turn. I crack my opponent for 5, and then attempt double port. Oh, my opponent's not even making me float the mana. Sick. Totally happy with that. Alright, opponent's just gonna chill. In which case, do one of these classic tricks. Do the end step, Violent Flicker Wisp, blink out the Swift Spear. And I think I am going to go ahead and send this up to 5 and just, like, vial in this Timeless Dragon. and leave my mana open for whatever it is that I draw. Shadow Spear. That that's better than my current plan. Do I want to cycle Timeless Dragon now? No, I'll just put this in next turn. That's fine. All right. Put this to my flyer here. Yeah, okay. There we go. So draw started out looking kind of medium, but really came together. All right, I don't think I'll be changing anything about my sideboarding here. My hand's medium. I'll keep it. Like, I have a Solitude that I can use for an early aggressive creature. I have a Thalia that can disrupt my opponent. And I don't mind pitching a Flicker Wisp to a Solitude here, because I do just, like, not have the ability to cast that card currently. So I'm fine with this, like, pitch removal spell. Goodbye. Is this a turn 1 Urza Saga? Turn 1 Urza Saga. Turn 2, just play Thalia. Turn 3, maybe make a Construct and get Shadow Spear? Or just float the mana if Thalia happens to be living. A little weird. Otherwise, it's a turn 3 Urza Saga, and I get the option of life gain significantly later, but I get more value out of the land. I think I always have to play Thalia on turn 2. I'll lead on the Urza Saga. I'm not sure if that's right. Okay, there's a land drop. It's very awkward for me that my opponent left up what is essentially removal mana. But I think I'm still just always on this line. I guess the Urza Saga play is slightly more awkward if my opponent has a smash in their opener. But that is what it is. Searing Blood, sure. Alright. I will just go ahead and float a mana there. Is there a world where I want Aether Vial? There's worlds, but I think I am just going to take this. Alright. Make my land drop, play my first creature, and now we're going to play this like very awkward dance where my opponent tries to kind of time walk me by removing this in response to a removal spell, and I try to play around things as safely as I can. Okay, there was a smash, which makes my line quite awkward. Sure. I want my opponent to play out a permanent so that I can interact with it via Skyclave Apparition. But instead, I'm just going to be on the beatdown plan, it looks like. I'm going to hit for 3, and then 6, and then 8. My opponent's low on resources, but I'm pretty low on life. This brings me to 8. I can theoretically die this turn to double Fire Blast. Okay, Sulfuric Vortex is not actually that bad for me. I can remove that with Skyclave if I want. I always attack for 6. Brings my opponent to 12. Next turn I can attack for 8. So I guess there is a question of whether or not I leave the Sulfuric Vortex in play. If I leave the Sulfuric Vortex in play, I die to a Fire Blast. I already die to double removal spell, or double Lightning Bolt effect. So there's a really neat line where I just like play a Skyclave and don't remove anything. And then I have 12 on my opponent's next turn. Alternatively, I can play Skyclave, remove Sulfuric Vortex, and then it takes me 2 more attack steps. Because that Sulfuric Vortex is worth 4 damage for me. The Swords and Plowshares in my hand complicates things a little bit. I'm always playing this. Don't think I remove it. Alright. That's a weird one, and I'm not going to play my land for Price of Progress-based reasons. So, opponent can kill me with Fire Blast. That is the card that I turned on. Otherwise, opponent needs double removal spell here. Alright, Chain Lightning, I go to 3. Do you have another spell? Does not immediately appear so. Solitude. So this is going to be close. I guess my opponent would have killed me already if they could have killed me. Alright, so there's 8 damage. And they die to their own Sulfuric Vortex. Alright, it feels good to be playing this deck again, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I really enjoy helping people, like, tune their brews or whatever, but, like, sitting here and, like, playing the deck that I'm very comfortable playing and I know in and out and playing to, like, exactly what my outs are, like, that feels good. Like, I definitely don't know everything about this exact iteration of the deck, but, like, doing things like recognizing that, like, not removing a Sulfuric Vortex actually increases my chance of winning feels good. Alright, this opening hand is is more my speed. I've got an early removal spell for something like a Delver. I've got a Stoneforge Mystic. Very comfortable with this hand versus a fair deck. We're potentially playing against a fair control deck of some kind. In which case, I've got my first few land drops. I have a Swords to Plowshares for an early creature of some kind. Um, Kind of whatever. Do I want to fire off Swords to Plowshares on that? I have my mana tied up for like the next 10 turns pretty easily, I think. I'm just gonna do this for the sake of mana efficiency. I don't like really care about that body. Because of Hidetsugu consumes all, I don't like super want to play out Urza's Saga immediately and just like have that or the tokens get swept up. I think I'm gonna kind of start by going the Stoneforge route. Alright, it's resolved. The question is which piece of equipment. The Cauldra is the most immediately threatening one. The Lion Sash is kind of a pain in the ass for a deck that probably wants to be using its graveyard in some capacity, but it's not super threatening. And Batterskull is kind of like the medium quality thing that is a little hard to deal with. I'm going to count on Grixis Control's ability to remove this Stoneforge Mystic and pick up a piece of equipment that is hard castable in the mid game. Like if the Stoneforge gets removed, a Cauldra just sits in my hand and rots. The big reason to get Cauldra is that it's indestructible. But like between Lightning Bolts, Fatal Pushes, maybe some other pieces of removal as well, I'm not like super optimistic that the Stoneforge makes it around the table. There's also just like Thoughtseize taking the piece of equipment. Yeah. All right, so now I know Sudden Edict is something that I need to be thinking about. Is this a Recruiter turn? A fine Recruiter turn. Is it an Urza Saga turn? An okay time to play Saga. The thing is, like, I probably want to play whatever I get off the Recruiter. I'm going to chill with the Urza Saga. I don't really want my lands disappearing yet. Oh, super happy to see that. If I knew my opponent was going to that aggressively force a Recruiter, though, I wish I would have played Urza Saga. Sure. So in case you're not familiar with this one, destroy each non-land permanent with mana value 1 or less is pretty rough. Then it exiles all graveyards, and then it starts turning into a critter. I don't super care about the critter side. I can Skyclave Apparition this at like any given moment. Play an Urza Saga. Now I know my opponent is like not going to be using their graveyard, so like I don't need to prioritize some sort of like Lion Sash thing. We're just going to start playing the value game. I already have a Flicker Wisp, so I don't need to be thinking about that. I think I want to be thinking about like a Stoneforge Mystic here. Mother of Runes is normally something that I kind of like in control matchups just to invalidate removal, but the fact that my opponent can have more copies of this card is rough. And notably, this is not legendary, so like more of them are allowed to happen. I also have Sudden Edict protection now, just kind of for what that's worth. Oh, just straight up casting one of those, huh? A little annoying for me. All right. There's a lot of stuff in my hand now. So I am always playing Karakas this turn, which is going to be very good against that Hidetsugu. I have 4 mana to use as I would like. Well, kind of 5. I think I begin by playing a Thalia. Okay, it's just resolved. I think I'll just plan on making my Urza Saga Construct token next. Let's just hit with a Recruiter. Alright, opponent's at 19. So this thing is a... Oh, right, this thing isn't a legendary creature. I can't just bounce it with Karakas. I really want this thing to be a legendary creature in my mind. I can Skyclave it at some point. That's awkward. Would I rather have a Thalia for later or an Urza Saga Construct now? Depends on whether or not my opponent has another Hidetsugu thingy. I think I'm just going to let that go. Okay. Narset is fine. I'm going to have a lot of things to think about regarding this, like, Skyclave Apparition. Like, I don't want a Narset to sit there and then just, like, randomly lose to a Day's Undoing. Yeah, there's a Hidetsugu consumes all, making my Urza Saga tokens considerably worse, so I probably won't even play the make a second token. The Jitte. 3 of my mana is eaten up this turn already. I'll have 2 remaining mana. I don't want to make a construct here, I don't think. Go ahead and just float my mana. Got the Shadow Spear in hand, meaning this is getting an Ether Vial. Play Jitte. Play Jitte, attempt to attack Narset with a 3-3. See how highly my opponent values it. Yeah. Let's do that. This is now a 3-3. Attempt to attack Narset. I want to see if my opponent wants to trade this creature for this token. It's weird because like they want to protect that Narset, but they also have a Hidetsugu who consumes all in their hand. Alright. Then second main phase, I'll go ahead and do this and actually get rid of the Narset unless I get forced. Which thankfully I did not. So I know my Ether Vial can eat it to another one of these, but I don't super care about that. That's why I'm trying to sandbag these 3 cards in my hand. Sure. Delta's fine. Fetch away. Dealing with like a Jace here. We're dealing with a Jace. Pretty close to getting a Skyclave. Or not a Skyclave, a Spirit of the Labyrinth ambush in. Bouncing my Skyclave is super awkward. I can just like replay it and get rid of the Jace if my opponent doesn't have a Brainstorm effect. Or not a Brainstorm, a Force effect. Batter Skull. I really need 5 mana this turn, and I only have 4. Timeless Dragon isn't quite doing what I want it to do. I wish it was just a land. I think I need a land drop this turn. So let's Plane Cycle. Get my land drop, build towards the future. And attempt to take this out. I don't think this works based on... Right? I'm wrong. You can have that 3-3. Timeless Dragon sitting in hand is awkward because, like, this exiles all graveyards as well. Not doing a very good job of pressuring my opponent's life total here. I'm hoping a Spirit of the Labyrinth blowout does some serious work. Yep. A Lightning Bolt. Okay. Do your thing. What's the follow-up? Lightning Bolt, the Skyclave. Understood. Note, Hidetsu consumes all, will destroy my opponent's tokens. Narset is reasonable. See what my opponent finds. Ponder, sure. They don't have the mana up to do that. Right, they're just holding back. I think I'm going to awkwardly put in a Mother of Runes here, even though, like, it potentially is going to give my opponent a 2-for-1 with Hidetsugu. But, like, I want to incentivize them to actually use that thing. Oh. We can just, like, keep drawing gas like that. Let's, I guess, figure out if this is going to resolve. Because whether this resolves dictates where my attack goes. Okay, it does. Get Narset. Tempt Protection, I think. Tempt Pro Blue. And we'll just kind of get in for an attack. It's possible that holding up this protection for my Spirit of the Labyrinth is better. Alright, that is a Hidetsugu who consumes all. Which prompts me to go ahead and tap this. Putting in a Spirit. I think my opponent should have attacked with their token. Their tokens first. I think they just like missed out on some damage. More Expressive Iteration. I'm also incentivized to take my Timeless Dragon out of the graveyard on my next turn before the middle ability goes off. That's fine. Ponder away. So if I cash in my damage immediately, which I probably will, I'll hit my opponent for 7, put a Timeless Dragon into play, and maybe also play a Mother of Runes. That's respectable. Oh. An interesting brainstorm there. Okay, sure. That's fine. Strix is fine. I will just use 1 Jitte counter and get that out of the way. Not bad. Bye to Baleful Strix. Crash in. No blocks. Pump. 5 damage and 2 more Jitte counters for me. Second main phase. Let's go 1, 2, 3, 4. Eternalize that Timeless Dragon. And I don't know that I'm expecting a Toxic Deluge out of my opponent's deck. And if I'm not expecting that, it's probably pretty okay to just do this. Like, I still have so much endgame gas here that, like, even if I do, like, eat 1 more card here, I don't super care. Keeping up with all of my opponent's expressive iterations very well, I say as they cast their 3rd one of the game. Got a Scalding Tarn off of that, sure. Like, each life point is precious here. Like, each individual point very much matters. Narset is fine. Sure. Finding Force of Will. That's okay. That card has text, but 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. Yeah. The board is what matters right now, not the hand. Yeah, I believe I am just sending these in and trying to kill my opponents, because this is 4, 5, 9, 10, 11. Confirming, does this fly? Yeah, it does still fly. Some of these eternalized type cards, there's a couple effects that do similar things, and I sometimes forget which is which. Oh, Sudden Edict's awkward. I can also just get rid of Timeless Dragon, keep Mom's protection, hit for 7 of 9. So the question is whether or not they have like a Lightning Bolt or Fatal Push as backup here. I'm gonna get rid of the Timeless Dragon here. Keep my shields. Second Sudden Edict. Okay. This time I am gonna get rid of the Mother of Runes, I think. I can also just get rid of the Recruiter and just say I only do 2 damage this turn and then just like slam a fucking Batterskull. I don't really want to prolong the game when my opponent could randomly draw 7 in a way that I very much don't like. But I also don't want to open up my opponent's removal. Alright, I deal 2 damage this turn. Alright, there's 7. I'm gonna slap a Batterskull. This potentially takes my opponent's Force of Will. Oh, takes a Force of Negation instead. Sure. Alright, so Hidetsugu's gonna transform. I'm not super worried about that. I'm much more worried about my opponent randomly just finding a Days Undoing and, like, getting a one-sided draw 7 that wrecks me, which is, like, why I didn't, like, go for a Stoneforge Find Cauldron line. Don't like that. Lose Mom to that. When they've got another removal spell, too. Savage. Okay. I want to get a 3/3 token now. I lose Mother of Runes. That's what I was worried about. Okay. Okay. I mean, if that has to happen, drawing a Recruiter immediately afterwards is pretty damn good. All right. Yes, let's use this ability. Stoneforge. I think I like Stoneforge here. So I play Stoneforge, find Cauldron, and threaten a kill next turn. That's pretty hard to disrupt. And I know my opponent has used multiple Sudden Edicts already. All right, goodbye graveyards. Sure. There is also a world where my opponent just decks out before they can physically kill me. All right, ponder, sure. No shuffle. Okay. This match might come to time. I should probably start spending less time thinking and more time just playing out whatever happens. Okay. That bounces Stoneforge and finds some time. Okay, yep. All right, is this thing going to come crashing in? No. Stay on the defensive, that's fine. Equip this, and I win in combat, and I can still play a Stoneforge post-combat. I am good with that. I could probably spend a very long time thinking about what to attack. I'm going to go ahead and head for Jace here. Let's pump. And I'm fine with pumping again. I eat a removal spell here, I eat a removal spell here, and then that's a removal spell that's not pointed at Stoneforge Mystic. Yeah, I'm good with that. And second main phase, I'll go ahead and attempt Stoneforge again. Sure, Force of Will's fine. And I'm going to go ahead and just F6 through my opponent's turn. I'm fine letting them know that I don't have Swords to Plowshares. These things not being legendary is like very real in situations like this one. All right, 17, and this thing gets a counter. Sure, that's fine. Gyclaves are a little awkward to fish out here. A Solitude's okay. I just need to take my opponent's threats off the board. I don't super care about the Planeswalkers right now. Or I can just, like, physically kill my opponent. Lock's real. A lot of ways to play this. I'm not going to spend as much time as I should on this turn. Okay, Sudden Edict gets rid of Spirit. That's fine. Brainstorm's fine. Again, a very real number there. I'm going to get Lion Sash, I think. A little obnoxious. I need to do a quick permanent count for how many times I can actually activate that thing. Hull Breacher, yep. Because it grows off of permanents. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and turn it into a 6/6 pretty easily. I think my opponent has turned the corner on this game, though, unfortunately. Yeah. I'm gonna take this hit and see if I can put in a Cauldra that kills my opponent. But I feel like the answer to that question should be like, no, this won't work. My opponent has Sudden Edict. They cast it on my turn. Okay, they've got that. Unfortunate. So I have 6 mana, 6 life. I think I start with a Recruiter and see if that resolves. Not. I can play Lion Sash, eat one thing, have a 3/3, die. Okay, that's fine. I will concede here. GG. I really wanted to take that game 1. All right. As far as sideboarding goes, I think I want Council's Judgments for my opponent's permanents. I think adding the Pithing Needle to the deck is reasonable. Sanctum Prelate's okay, but kind of building a strange house of cards in relying on it, like putting it on 3 so my opponent can't play the Hidetsu who consumes all and Days Undoing and Narset is cool. Also hits Culligan's Command, I guess. But my moms aren't super reliable in this matchup. I think I'm gonna board out Shadow Spear 100% of the time, just because like it's one thing that gets eaten up by my opponent's sweepers. Most of the rest of my cards are reasonable. Jete is medium, but gets Baleful Strix out of the way. Trying to decide if I want to board out more Mother of Runes. Mother of Runes is like simultaneously great and horrible because it's good against the Sudden Edict effects, but bad against the Hidetsu who consumes all, which is already a pretty legit card. Mom might be better than Aether Vial. Yeah, maybe I go down on Vials, even on the play. Like, they're a liability versus K-Command and Hidetsu who consumes all, and I don't really want something that has to be in play for 3 turns that's just easily swept in this matchup, I don't think. Gonna make some of my, like, 5-drop stuff a little worse, but the games are going to drag on, as we, like, very clearly saw. I'm gonna keep this hand. This hand will be amazing or terrible depending on how my opponent plays out their initial land drops. Amazing is the answer. And like this is going to be one of the upsides of just playing like a very land heavy deck. Like I essentially have 4 lands in my hand that are spells, and I'm going to try to just reset the clock a handful of times here and strip my opponent of starting resources. And back to turn 1 again. Just absolutely bully my opponent's mana here. And I am likely going to be the one who hits more land drops in the situations that look like this. In the worlds where Stoneforge like resolves and doesn't get removed, I don't want to play Urza Saga until next turn. All right, sure. Okay, it's resolved. I'm just going to get Cauldra here. I'm going to put my opponent to the test, like having destroyed a couple of their starting lands. They might not have a red mana source. They can Sudden Edict this, and like that's whatever. Because I just get to like have turns that look like this now. I'll go ahead and Recruiter. We'll use this ability. This is a little bit of an awkward Recruiter in that like I have a lot of viable things. I have a Flicker Wisp already. I have an Urza Saga on board that I'm going to use. That makes this really tough. I theoretically want a Mom for mana curve reasons, but not for a lot of other reasons. I'm going to grab like a Spirit of the Labyrinth. I'm not going to think too hard about this. Okay, my opponent still doesn't have red mana. All right, Narset is fine. Sure. Might need to play Spirit this turn instead of making an Urza Saga Construct token. Opponent has Force of Will. Gross. Never mind, not gross anymore. So I'm going to attempt to play Thalia first. I'm fine with not getting maximum value out of my Urza Saga here. I'm using this to bait Force of Will. If it resolves, that means my Spirit of the Labyrinth resolves, which is sick. Okay, it resolved. All right, so I'll play Urza Saga. I technically should attack first, but whatever. And I'll go poke that Narset. All right, Narset goes down to 2. And now I've made the Days Undoing combo worse on 2 different fronts. I've made it worse on the mana efficiency front and on the actual factual card draw front. All right, they found a Days Undoing. Null Rod, absolutely. Okay. I can't really use my mana super well here. I think I'm actually just going to go ahead and float a mana here and then activate the Urza Saga later because of like Hidetsugu who consumes all. Grab a Pithing Needle here. Go off Jace the Mind Sculptor, I think. Go to combat. Crash in for 6. At some point, I'll hopefully be able to like Flicker Wisp that Null Rod out and do some cool shit. Not there right now. Absolutely. I'm so good with things that don't immediately impact the board right now. Because I'm essentially just looking to aggro my opponent out here. Token. This is going to be another token. There it is. A vial. And this is a lot of damage. I haven't done the math yet. This might get me out of like Toxic Deluge range. Yeah. The Toxic Deluge doesn't kill the 4 toughness creatures now. Okay, there's the concession. I'm down a little bit on clock, so I'll need to keep that in mind. Now that I know my opponent also has Null Rod, do I want to cut the other 2 Ether Vials? The issue is that like the cards that I would be bringing in are pretty mediocre. So I don't think I'm going to do that. Hand's mediocre. I think I'll keep it though. Like I have the ability to bounce a Thalia in a very annoying way. I think I'm just going to go ahead and kind of accept that. Not sure if I want to Swords to Plowshares a Baleful Strix with this hand. My opponent plays one here. I don't super care about it immediately, but I also don't want to just get like poked by it 5 times over the course of the game. Alright. Fine with playing out Thalia 1 naked since I have Thalia 2 for next turn. Alright, fetch away. I also like really want to F6 through as many turns as possible, but I have a Solitude in hand, so like that's a little sketch to do. Sure. See what my opponent can do here. Okay, cool. Given this, go ahead and just play a new Thalia and just hold up Caracas. I'm fine with wasting the mana of this. Sudden Edict is awkward here. Yep. Not concede. Oh, shit, they did that in my main phase. That was super sloppy on their end. Unless they have a sit hit at Sugu, in which case, like, it's an awesome bait. Yeah, nope. Found a Daze Undoing. Not great for me, because I don't have, like, very good proactive things that I can just play out here. I also don't want to, like, put Yorion here. So I think, unfortunately, I'm just going to pass the turn. Oh, it's super awkward. Really don't like that. I'm in a bad position here. Could have put the Yorion into hand, but again, I think with Days Undoing floating there, like, that's a little sketchy. Alright, so the next question is, do I use Council's Judgment or Skyclave to answer that? It's basically like a Force of Negation versus do I want to give my opponent early tokens sort of difference. Okay. I don't think I want to turn on Force of Negation. Go ahead and Skyclave. Like, the earlier I use Skyclave, the better. In that, if my opponent gets a token and then it gets swept up by a Hidetsugu, I don't really care about that. A lot of weird tension in this matchup. Sure, Brainstorm's fine. I also can pretty reasonably play towards clocking my opponent, like timing them out. Really, it's going to take them a lot more clicks than it takes me. And rough. Okay. That eats my mom. Go ahead and just Swords to Plowshares that immediately, I think. I don't want to necessarily play out Solitude if I draw a land. I will play out a new Mom since my opponent Plague Engineered the previous one. Bash for 2. Again, I'm going to try to just hold the Yorion in my little command zone there. I want to hold the Solitude if possible for just like immediate Hull Breacher. I'm going to keep Mom here. Choice is super awkward for me because of like Hidetsugu. Okay, cool. That's fine. Are you bouncing? You are bouncing. That's fine. Wasteland is whatever. Skyclave. Skyclave first, I think. Junk the Jace. I think I want this mana more than my opponent wants their mana. Slightly unclear. Six is fine. Catching up a little on clock. Okay, sure. I lose Mom there. My opponent's not doing a very good job of like attacking with their tokens before playing those. Okay, that's all fine. I think since I drew another Council's Judgment there, I am fine with doing this and just like killing that now rather than trying to wait a few turns and solitude it out. Just trying to play around the like 6 mana, like Hull Breacher Days Undoing immediately beat me line by just holding the Solitude in hand for as long as possible. Yeah, I'll take one. Fine. Spirit Labyrinth is very actively good. I don't think I'm going to Council Judgment away a Baleful Strix. It gets rid of my pitch card for Solitude in a way that I very much don't like. I really want to put this Yorion into my hand. And, like, it's possible my opponent doesn't have that Days Undoing anymore because of this Brainstorm, but yeah, I want to play around that if at all possible. Sure, you get back an Expressive Iteration. That doesn't technically draw a card, so that seems good for you. Lightning Bolt Spirit. Yep. Might end up in a position where I have to put this Yorion into my hand. And also just like expose myself to the whole Days Undoing combo. I don't really want to do that if at all possible, though. Just trying to exile my opponent's primary win conditions. No Rod's fine. It doesn't really do anything right now. Do things later. That's a great draw. There's Recruiter. Nice. I think I'm just going to get a raw win condition here. I would play this differently if I wasn't so low on clock. Yes, we'll just pick up Cauldra. We're not so far away from hard casting it either. All right, do your thing. Has to be targeted removal because I'm playing around Edict effects pretty well. That's fine. Plague Engineer is fine. You can put that on human again. I'll Council's Judgment that away, I guess. I'll take one. All right, there's a Jitte. That's actually really annoying for my opponent, huh? I'll like give them a 4/4. I wish I had one more mana. I also wish I had time to think about this more. Probably beat that 4/4 most of the time. I'm just gonna hold up Solitude. Like Solitude, remove Plague Engineer, and then I get like a very reasonable attack in. Alright. Alright, let's cast Solitude, remove this Plague Engineer, and attempt to do some cool shit. There's a Jitte. Oh right, shit, Null Rod. I forgot about that. Fuck. Okay. I telegraphed this more than I wanted to. Guess I'm Council Judgmenting away the Null Rod now. Didn't want to do that. Okay, Brainstorm away. Sure. What's the follow-up? Oh, that's fine. Like, Jitte deals with these pretty well, especially, like, via Thalia. Okay, Narset, sure. Just hoping, like, they don't have the Days Undoing still. That was a long time ago, and there's 2 Brainstorms in between. Jace, sure. Okay, cool. Alright, so we're getting some damage. That's fine. Recruiter is cool. I like to Recruiter later rather than now. Like, I'd like to Recruiter when I have 6 mana and I can do everything in a single turn. Sure. Okay. A Sudden Edict. Get rid of Solitude there, I guess. I don't like making this attack, so I guess I'll play Recruiter. Pick up a new Skyclave. Call it a turn there. I have to be really careful with clock. Like, my opponent is using clock faster than I am, but I am lower on clock. Okay, Force of Will for that Skyclave is rough. Guess I have a second Skyclave, kind of. My opponent ends up bouncing the first one to get a 4/4 token. I don't know, the Thalia in play is also pretty annoying. Like, that's very much a thing. What my opponent does with their Jace. All right, they're just brainstorming. Sure. Okay. Attempt equip on Thalia. Attempt taking Narset off the board just so I don't have to worry about the whole Days Undoing thing. Okay, they're just going to let me do that. Sounds good. Going to go ahead and attempt to Skyclave Apparition this other Jace, and this is going to eat a Force of Will. That's fine. Okay, Brainstorm is fine. Really awkward things that can happen in terms of timing of removal involving the Skyclave with a Jace under it. Narset is fine. Okay. Opponent doesn't have that many cards left in deck, just by the way. That's a Days Undoing. Alright. Hull Breacher, sure. Okay, Solitude's cool. Go ahead and attack Narset down here. Sure, that's fine. Oh, shit. Okay, fine. Brainstorm, sure. Lightning Bolt, that is fine. You can get your token. Phase Undoing. I'll respond by casting a Solitude. I'll remove your illusion token here. And I'll use 2 of these to kill Hull Breacher. Okay, cool. Kill Baleful Strix. Kill Baleful Strix. Attack all of these with Jace here. See what my opponent does. Sure. I've got like timing out to worry about here. Sure. Play some stuff. And I think we're kind of in let opponent timeout range. Opponent probably cannot end the game in 40 seconds, so I just have to not time out. Hard to know for sure whether or not that's true, but I think that's true. So like the question is like, how sloppy do I play knowing that? All right, land, Yorian. Gonna play Yorian out. I can get cuter with Caracas, but I just don't want to time out here. I just need to F6 as many turns as possible. Remove this stop. And I think I am just going to F6 through both my own turn and my opponent's turn here. And make them try to kill me in sub 30 seconds, which I don't think can happen. Could be wrong, but it would be difficult. I will do an equip, though. Feel fine with doing that. Oh, my opponent removed all their stops. All right. That's kind of shit. But it is what it is. All right. That is unfortunate. I think I kind of had this game in the bag, but opponent removed all the stops while I was thinking. They Livy, so it goes. All right, I'll keep my opening hand for this round. Oh, I need this stop back. Sure, that's fine. Sure. Okay. I don't like that I have double a Ganjo in my opening hand. All right, I don't really like that draw on this board state. I don't really necessarily think that Solitude is going to be amazing. Oh, okay, we're just going to do this shit again, huh? All right. Oh no, it's going to be a Bant version of the same thing. Okay. I will just play out the Thalia here with no Caracas protection. Fine with that, because like my turn 3 in a lot of cases has to involve using this to answer a Planeswalker or something. All right, we resolved. Okay. See what sort of removal spell I'm facing down here. We have Prismatic Ending or something. Oh, it's just a Brainstorm. Sure. Very awkward Brainstorm timing, considering they just fetched. They had some information off of the Ponder, so like that is what it is. I don't need to remove this Ice Fang Coatl with a Skyclave. Could have played my Caracas pre-combat, but that doesn't really matter. Because single Tundra isn't going to remove Thalia. Alright. So, play a Spirit as the follow-up. Alright, that ate a Force of Will. Fine, pitching a Brainstorm. Got an Uro covered since I have a Caracas. I have my Thalia protected. Life's okay. My opponent's developing slowly. Current plan is just putting Yorian into my hand on my turn. Ice Fang Coatl probably should have attacked. Alright. Go ahead and just hit in for 2 here. Go to 12. I'll put this into my hand. Call it a turn. I wish I had more pressure, but like I have 2 uncontested damage right now. Like that's okay. My opponent is just kind of spinning their wheels brainstorming. There is a world where they're actually like a show and tell deck or something and things can get kind of weird, but see how that goes. Yeah, I don't really want this like giant pile of removal that I currently have. It is what it is. At 10. I'm gonna play a very, very, very mediocre Flicker Wisp. And just like blink out one of my lands. The Flicker Wisp is like just like not going to get in damage right now unless I like get kind of cute. Karn? Okay. That was unexpected. This Skyclave might have to stop like an ensnaring bridge or something. Yeah, okay. Wild. Okay. Like if you're gonna give me that many solitudes, I guess I'll use one on an Ice Fang. This is uncounterable. But if I'd be playing around like exactly days. Alright, that's awkward. Alright, cast Solitude. Get Ice Fang Coatl out of the way. Kill Karn. hit you for 2, have 8 power in play, have Skyclave to answer Ensnaring Bridge. I've temporarily dropped my shields on Thalia, but it really feels like my opponent isn't going to have the mana to answer Thalia while also playing Ensnaring Bridge. Yeah. It just becomes awkward if my opponent has like Force of Will plus blue card here. But I'm jamming. Just puts my opponent to 1, meaning they can't fetch again. Okay, yeah, there's the concession. Okay, I'll probably do minimal sideboarding here. I'm gonna assume that my opponent has Uros. I think I'm not too worried about that. Like I have 4 Caracas, 4 Skyclave, Flicker Wisps kind of do some things versus that. Solitudes. I think I'm okay on that front. So I don't know if I'm gonna board like Surgicals or Grafdigger's Cage. Like I've got options. Like this stuff that I'm piling over here is like stuff that I theoretically could consider, but I'm not in love with a lot of this. I don't know how many removal spells I need to have in the deck to be like reasonable versus Uro. I'll probably go down some number of Solitudes. I'm gonna go down 2 Solitudes for 2 Council's Judgments, just so I have something that can answer the Walkers as well. And then the question is like, do I want Pithing Needles for Walkers? Don't really want an early Pithing Needle. I don't really like Sanctum Prelate here, actually. Like, Sanctum Prelate got a lot worse against the white control decks since the printing of Prismatic Ending, so, like, putting it on 1 is, like, a reasonable thing to do, but, like, with Ending, Enteferi, and potentially, like, Jace as well as answers to that, I don't know that I really want this. Maybe that gets me one of these 3 cards in. I'm gonna take the Pithing Needle. Yeah. This is fine. Need more reps against specific decks to know for sure how I should be boarding. Hand's good. Okay, sure. Alright. Undra's... Wow, wow. Okay. Undra in the main phase Brainstorm is kind of wild. That's not a traditional line. Okay, sure. Oh, one of those situations, huh? Okay. Do I want to shut off potential cantrips from my opponent, or do I want to better play around Swords to Plowshares in this exact turn cycle? I think I want to play around Swords to Plowshares in this exact turn cycle. Oh, wow. Force pitching Uro there. Absolutely. I think we've probably won this one. Like, my opponent has Force twice and is missing their land drops, and now I get to, like, play Spirit of the Labyrinth followed by Spirit of the Labyrinth. Like, they can still have a Swords to Plowshares here, but like they're not making land drops with their control deck. That's not an okay place to be. Like I'm not making land drops either, so like I'm not getting as far ahead as I could be getting. But like this situation very much is favoring me right now. At a prismatic ending on my Shadow Spear. I don't know if you can do that. Ooh, that's a fun one. I'm gonna think about that while I attack. So I always attack for 3, 15. I don't think I'm gonna port my opponent, because a lot of my opponent's non-Swords to Plowshare cards are already like kind of shut off by Spirit of the Labyrinth. I'm gonna do this and grab a Thalia and attempt to just like really increase the chokehold that I have on my opponent's mana. My ideal world is I draw a land and I can just like Thalia plus Rishadenport. Yeah, okay, and there's the concession. Easy. All right, I'm gonna keep a slightly mana heavy opening hand here. It's fine. It's whatever. Like if Thalia is good and Thalia resolves, like this hand is pretty reasonable. If Thalia doesn't resolve or I need to pressure my opponent, this hand's not super great. All right, just mono control, huh? Just putting me through the ringer tonight. Do I want to show Rishadenport next turn? Kind of becomes my next question. Some of these decks like play a snow covered island. Oh, nope. Just going now. The good news is the Thalia probably kicks ass. Let's see if it resolves. Hell yeah. Do we win game 1 immediately? Yeah. The answer is no. We're playing against Show and Tell in all likelihood now. Yeah. Onder's fine. This Rishadenport on City of Traders can do some work. Recruiter the Guard also can do some serious work. I can Recruiter for Sanctum Prelate and then try to put that on 3. Opponent chose not to shuffle. Oh, wow. That's a tough choice. So I can play out a Spirit of the Labyrinth, which keeps my opponent from cantripping, but I think if I don't lock down the City of Traders, I'm just too likely to die to a show and tell in the next turn cycle. So I am just going to go ahead and port that down and just kind of hope I get a pseudo time walk to play Spirit of the Labyrinth. And I did not succeed at doing that. All right, so this is going to... Oh, getting so lucky here in terms of, like, not just being dead to my opponent having full combo. I also don't have Cathar Commandos in this exact list. Something to keep in mind. All right. Let's crash in for my 2. Opponent drops to 13. Go ahead and attempt Spirit of the Labyrinth now and port this Ancient Tomb down. And we can work towards Recruiter of the Guard into Sanctum Prelate over the next 2 turns. I can still just get got by, like, land 4 mana show and tell, but hopefully this slows down my opponent in a lot of those other cases where they're just, like, not ready to combo yet. Solitude's a reasonable draw. That does stuff. Let's attack in. Things can happen here. Nothing happened. That's good. There is also a line where I just, like, pass the turn, don't port my opponent, hold up Solitude. That's a little crazy. I'll go ahead and cast a Recruiter. I will use this ability. I can get a Flicker Wisp here instead of Sanctum Prelate. And then I can put a Flicker Wisp in off a Show and Tell. That's reasonable as well. Is there a world where I port Volcanic Island instead of Ancient Tomb because Ancient Tomb being tapped gives me a 1-turn clock? I don't think so. I don't want to accidentally get got by, like, not Show and Tell, by, like, a sneak attack coming into play or something. Okay. That's a sneak attack coming into play. I do have a Solitude, though. Alright, opponent is activating. It's an Emrakul. So just confirming. Protection from spells that are 1 or more color. Nice Solitude and Emrakul. Yes, I believe I can. Alright, so I'll let my opponent go to combat. Let's cast Solitude by pitching Thalia. Dunk the Emrakul. I don't like how much life that gives my opponent. This makes things pretty awkward for me. I don't have a Phyrexian Revoker in this deck. I can Flicker Wisp, Flicker Recruiter, get a whatchamacallit, Speculative Apparition. Think that's gonna have to be my plan. The unfortunate part here is that, like, I get that at my end step. I also could just get Solitude. Actually. Yeah, I could just get Solitude. That leaves me with a more immediate answer to what's going on over there. I think I still port this down. It's a little strange because, like, my opponent, like, very much wants to activate the sneak attack, but I don't want them to have the ability to activate the sneak attack on my turn or to activate the sneak attack after casting another cantrip. All right, sick. 3, 6 mana, so 1 more mana and I can do that thing. So let's go ahead and crash in with the crew. I'll just confirm that I have lethal for next turn. Easily lethal. That means I can hold back both of these while double porting my opponent and, I don't know, playing around a random Spell Pierce or something. Amped this on Volcanic Island now. Set a stop in the draw step. Sure. Alright, you found Grizzlebrand. That's fine. We'll go ahead and Rashadan port this. Don't need my draw step stop now. So I let my opponent attack. That way I can't get got by any weird Simian Spirit Guide sort of shenanigans. So I'll attempt Solitude, pitching Mother of Runes, exile that Grizzlebrand. Looks like it's working. Opponent will put themselves out of lethal range, unfortunately, and I'm just kind of stuck in this awkward dance situation. 3, 6, 7. Oh, opponent just conceded. Well, they were, I believe, literally dead. 5, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, they were literally dead as well. All right, super happy to get game 1 there. Back when I started playing Death and Taxes, over a decade ago at this point, I guess, Show and Tell was one of Death and Tax's best matchups, and now that Omniscience exists, that's not really true anymore. It's a much harder matchup than it used to be. I've got some decent tools here. I've got Pithing Needle for sneak attack. I've got Containment Priest. I have Peacekeeper, and I have Council's Judgments. Someone in the Discord was talking about like wanting to play Serenity to destroy an Omniscience, but I think the number of times where that sort of situation happens are pretty few and far between. I don't think I'm gonna board this in. That said, I will like passingly consider it. I don't feel like I need Shadow Spear or Jitte in this matchup. I don't feel like I need Lion Sash in this matchup. Lion Sash can do a weird thing where it can be a single threat that grows larger than a Grizzlebrand, but if like the game has gotten to that point, like I presumably can find some other way to win via like Orion bullshit or whatever. Most of the rest of my cards are reasonable. I can go down some number of Swords to Plowshares. Like as we can see here, Swords to Plowsharing the Grizzlebrand, like solituding the Grizzlebrand isn't necessarily the best feeling thing in the world. Bomb's also pretty mediocre, but protecting a Peacekeeper from an Echoing Truth or a red removal spell of some kind is pretty reasonable. Not sure what I want to do with my last couple of cards here. Like, Stoneforges are mediocre, Swords are mediocre. Timeless Dragon is low and maybe not what I need to be doing here. Maybe the Timeless Dragons can go. I'm not sure on, like, Timeless Dragon versus, like, Swords of Plowshare versus the last couple of other cards that I was talking about. This is an exceptional 5-card hand. But I think I'll just send this one back. I don't think I like that double mulligan. I don't like this 6-card hand. I don't like this 5-card hand, but on 5, I probably just need to keep. I'll junk a Swords to Plowshares. The next card is harder, because, like, these cards all do different things. I think I'm going to junk the Skyclave. When your opponent casts a Show and Tell, and you put in a Skyclave, and they just put in an Emrakul, it's real awkward. Aether Vial is among my best draws here. Okay, that's gotten a response. Are we getting Spell Pierced, or are you just brainstorming? Alright, that's kind of what I thought. Alright, the Vial has resolved. And opponent did nothing with their turn. And I will do nothing with my turn. We'll kind of stare at each other. This Containment Priest is simultaneously insane and awful. In a very strange way. Oh, I like that. I would like the possibility of vialing in Containment Priest in response to a Show and Tell, I think. There's some really weird Containment Priest Flicker Wisp dances that can go on. I would like to tax my opponent via Thalia, but I also don't want that card to get countered, which leaves me in a weird spot. Could vial in the Thalia, and then attempt to hard cast a Containment Priest, pseudo uncounterably. This turn's really hard. There's also like Impulse to think about, like with the timing of this Thalia. This is so weird. I'm gonna cast the Thalia. It resolved. Nice. Okay, sure. Mana base for my opponent's deck is kind of wild. End of turn, I'll activate this. Yes. Put in Stoneforge, and we're gonna attempt to find Kaldra. And really up the pressure that's on my opponent. I'm gonna leave this at 2 for uncounterable Containment Priest. Oh yeah. Guess I'll play that pre-combat. Weird things can happen sometimes. Put in Kaldra. There's 7 damage. So that brings my opponent to 12. Opponent's not, like, technically dead yet or anything. Magus of the Moon. Sure. That's fine. That has turned all of my opponent's lands into mountains. I think this is fine here. Yes. Put in Containment Priest. Leave this at 2. I can just Flicker Wisp out the Magus and kill it that way. Probably fine. So this is a fun trick if you don't know this one. 5, 6, 7, 2, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Double check. Yeah, okay. There we go. Good stuff. Anyway, talking about the trick. At end of turn, Magus of the Moon is going to come back, and Containment Priest is going to see that it's not being cast, so Flicker Wisp just becomes a nuke at that point. So we're scoreboard 3-1. If I wasn't like talking through all my lines and playing on camera, I would be 4-0 right now. But you know that is what it is. Um, this is a mediocre hand that I'm going to be keeping. Like I've got 3 lands. I kind of have a 4th land in the form of Timeless Dragon. I don't love that Urza Saga is a disappearing land here, so like that could make some things about this hand a little bit awkward for me. The fact that I don't have the second white source naturally for Sanctum Prelate can make me a little worse at curving out versus combo, but that kind of is what it is. Oh, essentially playing against 8 cast here. So I have to decide whether or not I want to wasteland my opponent or whether or not I want to just like vomit Thalia into play. Both are reasonable. The big difference is that Thalia can be countered and wasteland can't. My opponent had an anemic turn 1. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut them off and kind of hope that like playing Thalia a little bit later is fine as well. Yeah, yuck. Don't have a removal spell for that currently. Opponent found artifact mana in the graveyard. I guess I just continue to make life awkward for them. So Sanctum Prelate on 0 is probably my play next turn. I think opponent has a Force of Will. Oh, nope. Okay, cool. I really don't want to play against Kappa Cannoneer. That card just seems absolutely fucking brutal. 3 mana, targeting Chalice of the Void. Wow, that's a commitment. They're just like going for the Chalice on 1 at like all costs. If that's gonna happen, maybe I take a turn off and just dunk Emery. I think so. I mean, it's not like a turn off. I'm still making progress, right? Goodbye, Emery. Crash in for 2. I am definitely kind of the aggressor here. Like this disappearing land is going to make it harder to answer like a Kappa Cannoneer. My opponent's Urza Saga construct tokens are going to be huge. Ah, fuck. All right. Ward 4. My land's going to disappear. How am I beating that card? Not is the honest answer. Makes the Chalice play last turn make more sense. Urza Saga is going to cost me this game. I need 5 mana to kill Kappa Cannoneer. I can recruit her for something that helps. I guess the other answer is I can go for a win in the air. Do like Flicker Wisp chain stuff. Skyclave misses Kappa Cannoneer, which is brutal. Peacekeeper seems reasonable for post sideboard games as a way to potentially try to beat that. Yeah, shit. There's also lines where I try to race it with a Cauldra. There's also lines where I just put Sanctum Prelate on 0 and just like fucking pray that the Kappa Cannoneer doesn't kill me. I have things like this to worry about though. There's probably one more of those in the main deck. Rough. There is also just like this thing that I have to worry about too. But hopefully I can stall that out. Not super hopeful because like this current oh god. I'm not beating Kappa Cannoneer. Absolutely fucking not. I'll try. But like look at my opponent's board right now. It's at least 8 unblockable damage next turn as well. Not to mention the fact that just like a Thought Monitor alone, just pecking me in the air is probably good enough to beat me right now. I don't think this construct does a lot. I think I just want this mana. Life's bad. Dead before Ether Vial matters. Battlesphere also not great. I'm just going to concede. I don't think I can win this game. All right. Serenity is cool. Peacekeeper is cool. Council's Judgment is like an actual answer to Kappa Cannoneer. I've got some graveyard hate stuff that is reasonable. Pithing Needle's okay. Containment Priest and Grafdigger's Cage are they do things. I think I'll probably play Grafdigger's Cage to stop Emery. Pithing Needle for Urza Saga is also reasonable. I don't know if I want to board 7 cards, so 7's a lot. Mom's pretty mediocre here, but like Mom backing a Peacekeeper is one of those lines that is going to protect Peacekeeper from, what is it, Otawara, that will be my opponent's out for a lot of the things that's going on. Jitte seems medium. I feel like it just gets overwhelmed by Sai, or like the Urza Saga tokens are just so large that like this is irrelevant. I don't really know how to board here. Like, am I just going to accept that I can't protect Peacekeeper in the scenarios where like that's gonna happen? Like, boarding this out is also boarding out a 1-drop that very much matters. Peacekeeper buys me a few turns, maybe I win anyway. I don't know. Kappa Cannoneer is such bullshit. Unsure. Maybe I only get one of Grafdigger's Cage and Pithing Needle here. I could also just like not play Timeless Dragon. Timeless Dragon lines up kind of poorly versus Sai. That's a no. That's just way too slow. uh, yeah. I'm pitching the Solitude or the Peacekeeper. Peacekeeper is a very good sideboard card that I am very much not ready for yet. I have Emery covered in multiple different ways. Maybe I'll keep the Peacekeeper and pitch the Solitude. Immediate Pithing Needle on Urza Saga. I don't know. I have Urza Saga as well, though. That's kind of rough. Maybe immediate Grafdigger's Cage. I'm not super happy with this hand. I feel like I end up behind a lot of the time. Fine. Don't know that I want to wasteland my opponent here. I need this mana pretty badly. I want to turbo out Stoneforge, but this card's really valuable for stopping like the Thought Cast and Thought Monitor type things. I also can't really wasteland if I want to work towards Peacekeeper being the thing that beats Kappa just getting into play in the next turn or two. Sure. I got a Thought Cast out of that, so that's reasonable. All right. Crucible. Okay, my Wasteland's dead now. So we are very much on the Stoneforge Cauldra, win the game with it plan. All right, there's Cauldra. Emery milling them would be pretty sick. Okay, looks like Kappa Cannoneer is coming down. Sure. All right. We're racing. I get the first attack. So that goes to 8. I'll take 5 and go to 15. That's fine. Okay, there's an answer to Kappa Cannoneer. That's cool. Please don't Otawara my Germ token. I will be very sad. I will be so very sad. Eh. Eh. I would have Pithing Needled that if I could have, by the way. Alright. Ideal 1. Double check the text of Ward. I believe Ward is spell or ability, but I'm just going to double check because it matters a lot here. Okay, yeah, Ward is spell or ability. So I have 2 different answers to this card, but I can't use either of them right now. I just need another land. Oh, wow, I'm very surprised that my opponent just played that card out. Oh, no, they played it from graveyard via Crucible of Worlds. All right, that's super cute, I have to admit. And not good. So I'm going to cast a Spirit of the Labyrinth. And I think I'm going to hold Stoneforge Mystic back to block Kappa, because I have an answer to Kappa in hand. I just need to draw a mana source. I don't want to block with this. Although, I don't know. Like, I can just attack my opponent for 1 and then attack my opponent for 4. That's reasonable as well. I don't know, it's hard, because, like, on my opponent's better draws, I just die this turn when they just, like, Thoughtcast into Thoughtcast or something like that. That's ridiculous. Alright, there's an island. I will not be blocking with Spirit. Okay, they're not going in. Alright, so I don't have good attacks this turn. So I'm just playing a Stoneforge. I'll find a Batterskull. Lion's Ash? No, I'm choked on mana. Batterskull's fine. I can attempt to produce 2 different lethal threats. Alright, we're going to stare each other down. I have 7 cards in hand. I'll put my Batterskull in and then attempt lethal next turn. Definitely feel like I've gotten a little lucky here. Well, like, I've gotten unlucky in that I'm not drawing lands, but my opponent's position has not bettered. Alright, put this in. Do the Batterskull thing. Okay. I feel good about this. So let's go land and immediately attempt Council's Judgment. All right, that gets the Kappa out of the way. And that should pretty easily be lethal. I absolutely respect the line of tap double Ancient Tomb there. Yeah, I think I more or less like my boarding configuration. Like, there's some weird things I can do, like board ley lines to stop Emery openers, but the Emery openers do nothing about like Kappa, which is what this game is going to revolve around. All right, I have an answer to Kappa in hand. I will be keeping this hand accordingly. That's kind of how strongly I feel about Kappa in this matchup. The rest of the hand's kind of mediocre because I'm like super soft to a Chalice of the Void on turn one. Okay, that's all fine. That's fine. Like, this is not an Emery. This is not a Chalice on one. All right, so they saw my Aganjo. I'll still keep that in hand until I need it. All right, yeah. Pop that out. All right, that's a force. Opponent has 2 cards left. Like, Thalia into Sanctum Prelate is very real here. Yep, that's fine. That's fine. That's decreasing your artifact count. That's decreasing your artifact count. I'm good with it. Basic planes. I'm going to play that, even though my opponent knows about this one. I think Thalia is better than Rishadenport here. There's probably room to debate that. But, like, Thalia taxing the 0-drop artifacts is gross. This is also gross. I hid the Rishadenport last turn, which costs me a little here. But I think that's okay. I think I just want to do this and continue to choke my opponent on mana. And next turn, I'll Sanctum Prelate on 0. You have no mana for whatever you're trying to cast here. All right. Good stuff. Sanctum Prelate on 0. All right, there's the concession. So that's the 4-1 in paper, 5-0 in my heart, where, like, if I wasn't wasting time talking and narrating, like, I certainly would have won that round versus Grixis. But, like, that is what it is. Eh. All right, we'll try again tomorrow. Overall thoughts on the deck list. Fine. Like, the deck's obviously good. I don't know if this exact 75 is, like, where it's at for me. Like, I feel largely the way that I felt at the beginning of the league regarding these cards. Like, Urza Saga disappearing sucks in a lot of cases. It's got some raw power associated with it that was definitely relevant this league, and, like, it's some uncounterable creatures that can be paired with your equipment. I get it, it's fine. But the Urza Saga disappearing, like, by its very nature of reducing the number of lands you have in play, makes, like, cards like Batterskull and Kaldra worse that have, like, the ability to be late game mana sinks. And the Urza Saga disappearing kind of makes it less likely that you can go and, like, set up, like, Yorion loops, because you're not going to have, like, 6 mana to go, like, 5 mana, play Yorion, 6 mana, tap Karakas, bounce it, and so on and so forth. Sideboard was kind of whatever. The Yorion deck lists are basically going to have like 2 or 3 sideboard cards for fair matchups. I wasn't hurting for cards to bring in, but I didn't feel like this sideboard was a slam dunk either. I liked the cards that I had access to. I have some questions about whether or not Leyline of the Void is actually reasonable in this deck list. Like, you lose out on the ability to go and play a reasonable card like Rest in Peace that can just be good against things like Tarmogoyf decks. But if you've already got enough percentage points versus those decks in game 1, maybe that doesn't actually matter. Didn't really get Lion Sash into play, I don't think. I liked having access to that card. Like, there were definitely times that I was thinking about it. Yeah, I think that's more or less all that I have to say. I am sad that I don't have $300 in my pocket right now because I timed out because my opponent had time to remove all their stops and I couldn't do that because I was talking. I'm like this much salty about that. But it makes for more compelling content if I just like 5-0 on the third day, right? All right, folks. I will see you again tomorrow for part 2 of this challenge. Please leave me a like on your way out if you have any comments on the deck list. I would love to hear them. Have a great rest of the day. See ya.